What are the worst cases of pretty privilege you've ever seen? Worked with an absolute gorgeous woman, who showed up to work drunk 3 days a week. Laid her head down on an out-of-the-way cubicle and slept most of the day. Then she discovered coke, then meth. Stayed employed as others were being laid off. Refused rehab. Only lost her job when she didn't show up for 10 days while on a binge. Was still very attractive but was going downhill fast even before all the drugs she had an air of superiority about her. She'd been treated special her entire life due to her looks. A relative of mine entered a decorated hat contest as a part of this high-profile horse race at a casino. She spent 2 weeks decorating her hat to look like a racetrack. And it looked really good by contest time. When it came down to it, there was another lady in the competition who half-heartedly entered with some stupid shower cap looking thing. But she was years younger. Bouncing around all tipsy and dressed very provocatively. The host was all over her and gave her the top prize. While my relative's hat didn't even get a compliment that night. I've got two. First was a woman who was hired as an intern on a relatively high salary. Easily could have been a model. She responded directly to the director but didn't do anything. Became friends with her and learned they met in a bar. He basically hired her to be eye candy and she knew it. Second was another woman who could have been a model. She was further along in her career than me and clearly had experience. Thing is, she barely worked 3 hours a day. She was barely in the office 3 hours a day. She'd arrive late, leave early, spend hours at the gym. Management never cared. Attractive female teacher was caught having an affair. I won't sugarcoat it. She raped her student with one of our freshman young men in high school. People's reactions went about as cringy as what you would expect, and yes, she got a slap on the wrist. Few years later, male PE and coach was inappropriate with a male student and was crushed and shamed. And locked away for 20 years. Or so I had heard. I was not longer a student, heard it through the grapevine. I still can't figure out why people were nicer to her other than she was an attractive woman. That's pretty normal for non-hot dudes. It can be very alienating. You can't even talk about it. You'll just get made fun of even more. I kinda feel like some of these incel dudes are people like this who nobody ever befriended. And they got lost down the red pill rabbit hole. The worst I've dealt with was at a job. My boss hired this idiot hot boy who didn't do anything but flirt with her. No clue if they actually banged. With all my best work, I would submit it to my boss. She would say great job. Then forward it to hot boy, who would delete my name as the author and put his before sending to the whole department. This guy's salary was 3x mine. We're talking documents that are hundreds of pages and took me 6 months to write. Complete application system designs. I found out only because a department head quietly sent me an example of this with the note, "I can tell you wrote this document by the style and organization. Why is this guy's name on it?" I started secretly distributing them to the department heads before giving them to my boss. And people even called her out, saying they could tell it was my work. Or even that they knew it was mine because they had helped with it. But she never stopped. I quit and she begged me to come back for 2 months, but I never did. I talked to people who were still there and it took 3 people to replace me. And they were all people I trained. Fuck Wells Fargo. Don't work there. Maybe not the worst case but the most obvious. We were 4 girls in our late 20s. One of us was a 10. Not me. While the 3 others we were looking good but average. We were sitting in a bar. Suddenly there was a half circle of dudes around the 10 out of 10. And no one around me and the 2 others. She did not need to talk. She just needed to listen to the guys and smile. At some point I started hating going out with her because I'd be basically invisible. One time in college I accidentally hit a girl in the face with a door because she just assumed I was going to stand there and hold it for her. I held that door till the tip of my finger couldn't hold it anymore with my arm fully outstretched, while keeping a normal pace leaving the hall like every single person in front of me did. She just never put her hand up to catch the door. It wasn't even a thought in her mind that I might not stop what I'm doing and stand there and wait for her to go through. Bam! Right in the face, lol. I hadn't even looked at her before it happened, but she could have been a model. I'm sure if I had noticed her I probably would have held the door for her, lol. I know it's all speculation, but I can't imagine any other reason why someone would not catch a closing door they are going through like you do literally every time you exit a building in a line. I'm actually in a similar situation to yours. I've talked to some people in my college and hear some pretty horrible stories and get a peer into a type of lifestyle I definitely do not want to live, because I'm a sweetheart, lol. So I also avoid big groups and generally keep to myself and away from girls. I have like 2 stories worth noting. The first one isn't horribly bad, but it still leaves a taste in my mouth I don't like. So we had to form groups of 5. Strictly 5. I usually don't worry about finding a group because I just wait until everyone gets into a group. Then find one that doesn't have the max amount of people. But this one girl messaged me and asked if I was in a group. I told her no. A little bit of talking later and she suggests that I join hers. She said her group only had 3 people. Thing is, I had this friend I willingly spend time with on campus. He has a bit of a speech impediment, is quite socially anxious, and not the most attractive person. But he's smart. He'd be a good person to have in the group. So I ask her if I can bring him with me. And she goes, "Oh, actually I just found out they found another person, so we only have 1 space now." I didn't feel okay with how quickly she said that. So I suggested that they would take him and I'd find another group myself. And then she said she'd check with the others if they could actually accept my friend. It took hours. She didn't say anything for hours. So I kept bugging her about it because, I'll be honest, I didn't like how all of it seemed she didn't respond, though she was online. So I asked the class representative, who had info on who was in whose group, if that girl's group had space. It had 2 open spaces still. So I went to the group chat and asked her specifically, "Hey, girl's name, my friend, guy's name, has agreed to join your group. You were struggling to find people, right?" Quote. She, rather quickly, messaged me on private messages after that. She said she'd take my friend as I had suggested. And that was that. Another thing is this girl seems to like bothering me quite a bit online and on campus. Not anything overly creepy, but it does get quite annoying. She stares a lot, but whatever. Oh, and I found my group pretty quickly after that, so that's good. The other one is a simple one, really. Honestly, I don't think it's worth sharing. But whatever. I was in the college library reading a book. There were these 2 cute-looking girls at a certain table. Some 2 guys were talking to them. One of them were actually in a conversation with the girls, but the other one, who wasn't as attractive, was basically being ignored. He left not too long after. I assume he understood that the girls didn't really care to conversate with him. To be honest, neither of them really looked interested. I didn't hear any of the conversation. So I was just looking at body language and eye contact to surmise all of this. The guys ended up leaving, seemingly dejected, especially the guy who seemed to be getting ignored. A while after that, they noticed me, and for a while one of them just stared at me, just kept reading my book. After maybe 5 minutes, I could see one of them walking over in my peripheral vision. So I looked up, and it wasn't just the one, but both of them. One girl asked if they could sit there. So I said sure. The one girl complimented my hair. and I thanked her and complimented her hair. Somehow it snowballed into a full-on conversation that was actually really enjoyable to have. It was a nice conversation. They would seem like cool people if it wasn't for how I saw them treat that one guy before coming over to talk to me. They had to go home and one of them asked for my number, but I told them I wasn't looking to make any more friends. Politely, of course. But yeah, these two things were just things I've been thinking about a lot since they happened. The thing is, I used to be bullied really badly for my looks. And I understand that I'm apparently attractive now, but the contrast between those two parts of my life really make me hyper-aware of how people treat me now versus how they treat others. I'm not gonna lie though, pretty privilege is a nice thing to be on the receiving end of. I don't get bullied or laughed at anymore, and I'm honestly so happy about it. The only annoying thing is people like the girl I mentioned in the first story. That's it. I'm gonna read the comments now. I used to work at a movie theater and one of my coworkers had severe Asperger's. It would be a packed Saturday night in concession and he would ignore the entire line of people in front of him and wave a pretty girl forward just to give her as much free stuff as he could. Being pretty worked for them, I guess. These same girls probably bully whoever they think is prettier than them. A lot of assholes out there can only tolerate non-threatening, mediocre-looking people. Ugly? Easy target. Pretty? Makes them insecure. Your friends suck. WTF is wrong with them? That is thoroughly messed up. Hopefully that guy finds good people on his life. Yeah, I'm like the dude you talked about. I often get ignored. If it isn't about a college assignment, no one wants to talk to me. I was thinking before starting my next semester to go ahead and kill myself. I'll try to enjoy my next couple of weeks left. By the way, I don't blame anyone. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I don't like people anyway, so it's fine they don't like me. Sucks. Wish I could have experienced the college life. The movie Chicago is inspired by two pretty women who got away with murder. Butterflies. When you said looks can make up for lack of social skills, I felt that lol. I'm autistic and my focused interest is makeup. I've always put a lot of effort into how I present myself, masking to the point of extreme burnout a lot of the time. I do this because I saw such a stark difference between how I was treated when I was pretty versus when I put zero effort into how I look. My awkwardness became endearing. My directness was refreshing instead of off-putting. It's amazing the double standard. Off topic. But why would you stay around friends who admit to alienating someone for being unattractive? That would cast some serious doubt on their character. Emo. It sucks BC if you have pretty privilege and you find a girl cute. If you make a romantic gesture towards her, her and her friends will call it romantic and sweet. But if the same were to happen from a dude that doesn't have pretty privilege, that same act would make him a creep or weirdo. I knew a really pretty girl in college. We were on the same school trip to New York and went to the same bar in NYC one night. I had never really known her that well, but she seemed cool enough. I was chatting with someone at the bar and she pulled me aside and told me to not associate with ugly people. I was appalled. Lots of fictional characters, no matter how evil they are. Tate Langdon, for instance. He shot up a school, raped his GFS mom, killed many dudes, and people still like him? Olivia Dunn.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.